Welcome to the Nightly News Podcast. Today, we are here with some of the members of the upcoming production Passions that's going to take place here at the Capital Blue Cross Theater on the Summerdale campus from September 7th through the 9th with a 7:30 curtain time all 3 evenings. We are sitting here today with theater director Janet Bixler. Janet, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for asking me back.
Why
love the support.
Why wouldn't I ask you back, Janet? Come on. We at the Nightly News are huge supporters of what you do in the Capital Blue Cross Theater.
Yes, you are, and we appreciate that support and getting the word out.
Certainly not a problem. Also here with Darren Greene, one of the Nightly News reporters. Darren, you are actually very heavily involved in this upcoming piece, which is why I wanted to have you down and talk with you about it today. So welcome to the show, Darren.
Hey, welcome.
Well, so I want to start off by talking about a little bit more about this production. As you mention on the flyer, Passions is a theatrical showcase of monologues, scenes, and short plays, with actors including Central Penn College students and staff, as well as local community members. So the question is, how did you come up with this specific production? What about it spoke to you, Janet?
Well, it's important that we do productions here at the Capital Blue Cross Theater that can work within the confines of the students' busy lives here in a 4-term college system. So the students are interested and willing and excited to be involved in scripted material, but to rehearse a formal, traditional scripted play requires 7 weeks of intense rehearsal, which would mean 4 to 5 days of rehearsal a week. And our students are very busy with classwork, with jobs here on campus, and with jobs outside, that they cannot commit or make their schedule available to rehearse 7 straight weeks of 4 to 5 nights a week. So I thought it would be very beneficial if we created a showcase where they can perform in scripted materials that are short and interesting, but have less rehearsal requirements.
Well, what is it about this production that would have less requirements?
Well, monologues are 2 to 3 minutes long, so they only need to come and rehearse with me 1 or 2 times a week throughout the rehearsal process leading up to production. If they're doing a scene, they need to rehearse with me 2 to 3 days a week. And then a short play is considered about a 10-minute play, and it's a complete play with a beginning, middle, and end, and it's published. And so those actors also need to commit about 3 days a week over the 7-week rehearsal process. And because they're short pieces, we're able to actually do a 7-week auditions, rehearsal, and tech production. And then everything is done by week 9, so the students can do their classwork the last 2 weeks, week 10 and 11, without any stress of a production.
And I would imagine that would be a fairly, a lot of stress to put this production on, especially for those maybe who aren't quite as used to doing something like this.
Yeah, that's another reason I chose to do a showcase, because a lot of our students and our staff and our community members, not only are they all very busy, but they have varying degrees of experience doing live theater, but so many of them want to, really wet their feet with scripted material. So this is a great opportunity to do small pieces where they can feel successful, that learning and memorizing the lines are not as daunting as if you were doing a full scripted play. Also, the ability to take a character and really develop it over a very concentrated period and feeling that success of bringing a character to life is much more manageable for people who are new to acting if they're given a small, manageable piece.
Now, Darren, I want to bring you into the conversation here. Can you just tell me a little bit about, without giving too much away, of course, can you just tell me a little bit more about what your part in the play is and maybe a little bit more about your specific scene?
Okay, so in my specific scene, I'm playing a part of this what I'm playing a psychic that is about to get into a breakup with Morgan's character, Whitney. And so basically I'm trying to convince her not to break up with me and stuff like that. And it just turns into something else at the end. I can't really tell because I don't want to give away the story.
Of course, we don't want you to give away the story. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I really enjoy about having people from the theater on is to talk a little bit more about the creative process, because as I've very clearly spoken with you two on previous episodes about, I've never done any theater. I've never really done any performing like this, but I respect good theater, and I respect the fun of it, and also the amount of time that it takes to put in to such a production. So I was wondering if you two could speak to me about the development of this piece. I understand why you chose the piece that you did, but when choosing the piece, and can you just give me maybe, Janet, a timeline of from maybe week 1 to week 2 to week 3, maybe how the progress of this show actually happened?
We had scheduled to produce a musical here on campus and had auditions at the end of May. Unfortunately, we didn't get enough people to turn out to produce the musical. So I had to do a quick change and design a piece of theater that we could put into rehearsal and produce around the time we would have had the musical running. So when we made the decision to cancel the musical due to not enough people coming out to audition, I had to brainstorm something that could work with our students' busy schedules. And I came up with the idea of a showcase. And then when I get the idea of the showcase, I have to decide on a theme, because you just don't want random pieces. And because the human experience is usually driven by passion, I thought I would be able to find pieces that are interesting for the students, the staff, and the community to perform using the theme passion. And when I decided on the theme, I then had to go search for the pieces. So many days and hours went into searching for the appropriate pieces that the students, staff, and community members would find interesting. Fortunately, I knew I have a database of short plays that I've used in other classes, written by contemporary playwrights.
Wow, I didn't even know something like that existed.
Yes. And I have a favorite playwright, Ann Wooler, whose play I have used in different classes. So I went into that database where she has some work, and I found some other playwrights, and several of those plays I chose for this showcase because they really highlight different types of passion, because passion isn't just about love and lust. Passion drives a lot of our decisions. And fortunately, when you're creating theater and you're using scripted material, you have to respect the playwright, the composer, the lyricist, which means you have to pay royalties, which means you have to get permission to use their work. So when I'm going to look for pieces and I'm reading the pieces, I have to find pieces that I can, because time is of the essence, that I can reach out to the publisher, the playwright, to get their permission and then pay the royalty. Fortunately, this database of playwrights, you can contact the playwright personally. They have their email connected to the script on the database. So I could actually communicate with the playwrights just from me to them, and I didn't have to go through a publisher, which was very time. It helped a lot with the time constraints. And fortunately, all the playwrights responded in a timely manner, and they were extremely excited that we are doing their work. And we then discussed how much royalty, meaning how much I would pay to produce their work, because art is not done for free
Of course not.
Unless you're doing pieces that are in public domain, which there's very little scripted work that's in public domain. However, Shakespeare is. And because some of our students and community and faculty and staff enjoy Shakespeare, and Shakespeare is so well known, and Shakespeare is quickly identified with the emotion of passion, I went into the works of Shakespeare and found some pieces of Shakespeare that we could put on stage. And so once I find the pieces, then I have to cast the pieces and find the right actors that can play these characters. And so we had auditions week 2 of our 11-week term here in the summer. And then once we have it cast, then I had to set up a rehearsal schedule, which is actually quite complicated because the actors have to look at all the different available slots that I have, and they have to look at their own personal schedules and the schedules of their acting partners, and they have to pick available slots 2 to 3 times a week over the next several weeks so that we can meet individually to rehearse. Once we're deep in the rehearsal and things are going well, then I have to figure out it's a showcase. It's the theme of passions, but you just can't randomly put one passionate piece after the other. There has to be some kind of flow. So watching the actors develop the pieces, I then had to figure out how did one piece tie into another. So putting the pieces in a very specific order. And we begin with Romeo and Juliet. Juliet's monologue at the balcony where she says, "Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo?" And we end with another Shakespearean piece, Antony and Cleopatra, where Antony is coming to tell his mistress, his lover, Cleopatra, that all is good. Antony's wife has died and they can be together. But it's really not about that. It's really about power and greed and lust. We start with young, extravagant, passionate love, and we end with some very adult, one might say, manipulative love and passion. And in between, we have very different pieces that are, some are light, like Darren's piece. It is light and funny, and Darren and Morgan are doing a beautiful job because their piece specifically to play the comedy is all about the timing, and I'm very impressed with what they're doing with their characters and the ability to not only learn their lines but deliver them in such a way that creates the moment of passion and tension. So there are some very light pieces, and then there's like the last piece, the Antony and Cleopatra, is very bawdy and very funny, especially with Dylan Epler and Adrienne Thoman, our two of our staff members here that play the characters.
And Adrienne Thoman will be coming up later on the podcast to discuss a little bit more. She didn't give too much away, don't worry. A little bit more about this and some other things that are coming up in September.
And then inside the run of the show, there are some deep and really evocative pieces that really make people think about not only what are you passionate about, but how passionate are you? Will you really follow through on what you say? There's a little bit of everything for everyone in this showcase. The light, the comedic, the serious, the evocative, the very broad and funny, there's some subtle funny, there are some deep messages. Yeah, so then we're in rehearsal and we have created the lineup of the order. Then we have to create, and we as me, create how will the audience travel through the night. And so Malcolm, my student worker, who is wonderful, Malcolm Fox, he and I work together on finding very specific musical selections and sounds that will help piece each of the different stories of passion together and flow. And there are even little segue moments that allow the audience to transition out of the Romeo and Juliet scene where Juliet has the potion and takes it in the hopes that Romeo will come find her, wake her up, and take her away so they can live together forever away from their family's feud. We have music, and then we help transition the audience from that moment into Darren's piece called Surprises, which takes place at a 24-hour diner and begins with almost a shouting match.
Now, Darren, can you just tell me a little bit more about the commitment that it takes to really be a part of this presentation, to really be a part and immerse yourself in it? So, obviously, you're in school, you work, you're involved with the Nightly News Media Club. How can you fit this in all of your schedule?
Okay, being that this is a theatrical showcase in which not every actor that's acting in this is have to be there at the same time like we were in Truth. Whereas everyone has to be there, it's in every, and it's certain timing. So I was able to come to practice right after work for the most part. So that's how I was able to balance everything.
I think that it's very interesting to think about how, and Janet sort of talked about this a little bit, how difficult it is to try to juggle all of these things. And I really commend you for really taking the initiative to step up. Not only with the Central Penn Players, with the Nightly News, you're working, you're doing well in your classes. I mean, you got to understand that long term, this is all going to pay off, you know?
Yes.
So I want to talk to you guys about two specific things. Real quick, I'm just going to give you a recap. We're here today with Darren Greene, star of Passions, Janet Bixler, theater director here at Central Penn College. We're talking Passions. It's coming up on September 7, 8, and 9 at 7:30. $5 general admission and $3 for students. But Janet, I do see here that you've got a very unique opportunity for the students, and it's and certainly faculty, staff, and community that wants to come in. This is open to the public. There is a really cool opportunity on Saturday, September 9th, from 6 to 7 p.m. in the Night and Day Cafe, and it's dinner and a show. Can you tell us a little bit about this and maybe how you got this started and where this idea came from?
I was down in my office, and Rubina Azizdan, who works with our career services department and is extremely active in the community surrounding Central Penn College, she was visiting with me, and we were talking about, how can we get more people to come out to the theater? And she's like, hey, you should do dinner and a show. And then we got to brainstorming, and she's like, oh, you should do an Italian dinner from the very passionate culture of the Italians. And hello, Romeo and Juliet is set in Italy. And we could host the dinner, and then the people could come over and see the show. And from there, we worked with our conference center here on the campus, and we are offering dinner and a show on September 9th, the Saturday, from 6 to 7 in the Night and Day Cafe Lounge. And the Italian dinner is catered through our conference center. It'll have several choices of pastas and salad and breadsticks and dessert and beverages. And then the visitors will be able to walk across our bridge on campus and come down into the theater for the 7:30 show. So it's a great date night idea. It's a great girls' night out idea. And it's a great deal. For dinner and a show, $10 for students and only $15 for general admission.
That's incredible value. And it's really awesome, too, because it's a really nice place down in Night and Day Cafe as far as the scenery. And also to walk up the stairs, to walk across the bridge, and to walk down into the theater. I think that's going to be a really unique experience. So, very affordable date night on September 9th.
And it's really important that you get your tickets in advance so we can give the numbers to the conference center, so we can have enough pasta and everything prepared. So please get your tickets in advance for the dinner and a show. These
websites will accompany the podcast here today, but if you would like to go and grab your tickets now, if you're listening, go to http://passionsplayadmissionsonly.eventbrite.com. If you're looking for the dinner and a show tickets, it would be SEPT9 passionsdinnerandshow.eventbrite.com. And again, those links will accompany this podcast, so please make sure to get your tickets early. Well, Janet, we just have a couple of more minutes, and Darren, of course, we just have a couple of more minutes. I want to talk with both of you about the sneak peek, because one thing I haven't mentioned yet is on September 6th, Wednesday, there is a free sneak peek at 5 p.m. in the theater. It is, now, let me ask you this. Why are you doing this? Sounds like something a little unusual. I know that in the previous presentation you did a common hour, and that was very unique how you did that. But this isn't going to be quite like that from what I understand.
I mean, it's when you look at a commercial for an upcoming movie, that's basically what it is. It's a sneak peek. So I guess to get people to want to come out and watch it, we'll have a free sneak peek, and people can look. I'm like, oh, okay, this might be a little interesting. I might want to pay for this and go. So that's a good idea. I like that, and it should be used every time you do another
But Darren, do you think that you risk giving too much away in a sneak peek?
Mm-hmm. So we're basically, she can explain it this far, because I think we're not going to do our entire pieces. It's going to be cut.
Mm-hmm. So it's going to be set up like a movie montage. All the characters from the different pieces will be on stage with their backs to the audience, and I will be chatting with the audience and introducing the characters, and they will come to life, and they will do just a very interesting moment from their pieces, just to whet the appetite of the audience. We're scheduled to start at 5 and have it run till 5:45. It probably won't even run that long because it is a sneak peek. It is just whet your appetite. And Brian Christiana, our box office manager, he will be in the box office during the sneak peek so people can right away get their ticket for the show. And again, $3 for students, $5 for general admission to see all these different types of stories about passion. It's a great deal. And I'll tell you, Paul, the actors have been working so hard and they are doing a lot of great things. Darren has been in 3 pieces in the Capitol Blue Cross Theater. He started with a scripted reading of in a monologue, memory, rant, and a prayer, which was to stop the violence against women and children. And we did it like a radio show, a staged reading. And then he was part of the 3rd student-created play, Truth, where the cast of actors got together and they created a play from their imaginations and lived experiences. And now he's in a showcase using a published scripted piece by a playwright to whom we don't know personally and bringing a character to life. You've had an opportunity to do 3 different styles of theater. Mm-hmm. What's your experience being able to do different styles of theater?
My experience. Could you rephrase that?
Well, how do you feel? What have you learned by doing different types of styles of theater? What have you enjoyed encountering all these different styles?
Okay, so I think I'm really learning with this one because, before it was the monologue one. That was basically I'm a reporter reporting on what had happened. With the Truth is basically I created myself, so you can act like yourself. With this one, I'm just a totally different person. So I really feel like I'm really learning the true acting skills with this scene.
Well, I'll tell you what, I am very much looking forward to Passions. The sneak peek, September 6th, 5 p.m. That is free. September 7, 8, and 9 at 7:30. That's $3 for students and $5 for general admission. And, of course, as we just mentioned, September 9th, dinner and a show from 6 to 7 in the Night and Day Cafe Lounge with a catered Italian meal. Dinner and a show, $10 for students, $15 general admission. Janet, I wish you the absolute best of luck on Passions, and Darren as well. Seriously, I'm very much looking forward to coming out. I'm either coming Thursday or Friday yet. I haven't decided which one. Unfortunately, I won't be able to take advantage of the dinner and the show, but I promise you I will be there and support what you guys are doing. One final question. I always have to ask. Fall Harvest is coming on everyone's radar, and you have done something every year at the Capitol Blue Cross Theater as far as the children's play. I was wondering, without going into too much detail, I don't want to spoil anything. What are your plans for the Fall Harvest?
Glad you asked. The Drama Club Central Penn Players have in the past created original children's plays for Fall Harvest. Because Fall Harvest actually comes so soon in the fall term, and because so many of the Drama Club members are working on Passions, we do not have time to create and rehearse an original children's play. But the Drama Club members love doing improv, so they are practicing family-friendly, superhero-themed improv.
Because our theme this year for the entire homecoming weekend is superhero theme.
Yes, and we're hoping the children that come to visit during Fall Harvest will come in their superhero costumes, and we're even going to try to get some of the children in the audience to come up and participate in some of the improv games.
That's fantastic. And we will certainly, you're welcome to come back. We're going to be doing a couple of shows closer to Fall Harvest if you want to come back and chat with us about what you have going on down in the theater. Darren, I want to thank you very much for coming here today and chatting about your experience with Passions. I wish you the absolute best of luck. I've really enjoyed you when you've been on stage in the past, and I'm sure that you'll follow through and you'll repeat your wonder of how excellent you are on stage. So we appreciate you coming down today.
Thank you.
And Theater Director Janet Bixler, thank you very much. Always very excited and passionate about experiencing the arts with our students, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to the Nightly News Podcast today. And we from the Nightly News Podcast wish you the absolute best of luck with Passions. We look forward to seeing what you come up with at Fall Harvest.
Thank you so much for having me.
Without a doubt. All right, so for Darren Greene, for Theater Director Janet Bixler, this is Professor Paul Miller, and we'll be right back with Adrienne Thoman talking September events and and her role in Passions. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Sarah Blumenshine, Alumni Engagement Director at Central Penn College, and thank you for listening to the Nightly News Podcast.
Welcome back to the Nightly News Podcast. Today we are joined by two of our wonderful media club members, Ian Kemmerer and Michael Ademola. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast again.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for having us.
You're quite welcome, gentlemen. And of course, we're joined for our monthly appearance from Student Activities Director Adrienne Thoman. Adrienne, as always, it's always a pleasure to have you here on the Nightly News Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So we're going to do things a little bit differently because of the way that the calendar turns out this month, and because, of course, the end of September is coming. We have our finals coming up during week 11, so we're going to actually start our September calendar today. There's a couple of things that I wanted to follow up with, things that happened in August. And the first one, I'm going to talk with Ian here. Ian, did you listen to the previous time that we had Adrienne on when we were previewing the cornhole tournament?
No, I didn't, but Adrienne, I work with Adrienne in the underground, and Adrienne was like, oh, you should come out and do the cornhole tournament.
So can you walk me through what happened, maybe who was all out there and what the finals ended up being?
It came down to me, Brian, as one team.
So it was you and Brian Cristiano on one side?
It was Drew. No. It was Marquise Broxton and Cortez Harris. It was the final.
And so was it a best of three situation there?
No,
or
it was just
one game?
One game.
Okay. And how did that last game go down?
We won by 5 points.
Okay, so the next time that you're down working, if you're just doing some research, feel free to put on the Nightly News Podcast, because if you would have listened to the last time that Adrienne was on, I threw out somewhat of a challenge to the winner of this competition, offering cash if they could beat me and a mystery partner. So now we're to the point now that you are on the show that we are going to have to follow through with this, because I'm not somebody who says that I'm going to do something on the air and then not follow through. So I'm going to ask Adrienne. Adrienne, we're going to be putting something together, and I think maybe off air you and I can talk about the prize. Maybe the Nightly News will throw up a couple of bucks. Maybe Student Activities can throw up a couple of bucks. Of course, if we win, we would either donate the money or do something else for the students. But certainly if you all couldn't beat myself and the mystery partner, you will maybe have some cash coming your way.
I love it.
Who's the mystery partner?
See, that's the hence mystery. It's going to be sort of a last-minute thing. You'll know the day of. Obviously, I'm one half of the challengers, but I'm not going to tell you who the other half is.
Ian, I promise you it will not be me. I cannot play cornhole at all.
Well,
but I will be there definitely to see this competition.
Absolutely, and that's going to be the one thing. We're probably going to do it at 3:30. I know you guys have classes one afternoon around 3:30, but just the day we're not 100% sure with, and I will certainly include the information. We'll make sure that we do a live broadcast on the Nightly News page, and we follow up with this, because I want you guys to make sure. And congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
But you're not there yet. You've got one more mountain to climb, if you know what I'm saying.
Technically, I am there. I won.
We got an automatic bye to the finals. Let's just put it that way. So, how many people came out for the cornhole tournament?
There was 5 teams.
Wow, that's pretty good. Now, how did you do it with 5 teams? I've actually played with odd numbered teams before, and it can be very difficult.
It was difficult. Adrienne put it out in the bracket, and it was me, my team, and 3 other teams go, and then it was one team that had to wait until the next round. So
somebody
they really
got a
all
bye.
yeah.
They came a little late, so it actually worked out kind of perfectly.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that you guys do stuff like that. I mean, little things like that. And that's the thing. I'm sure you can speak to this, Adrienne. You know, it's not every single time when you're coming up with these activities, you know, Hershey Park or whitewater rafting or Hawk Mountain, all the wonderful trips that you take. Sometimes some of the most fun activities are something that's easy to put together, and you can get some people sort of on a whim to come out. Can you just talk about how, like, little smaller events like this really do sort of make it much easier for students to get more involved in something like this?
Well, I think it's so neat to see students enjoying campus. It makes me happy when we're out there on the quad, and you know, whether we're playing cornhole or listening to music or Hungry Hippos, we've done that in the past too. Whatever it may be, I love that you guys are using your space. It's your campus. And it's easier, maybe a student isn't so sure about participating. They've never done anything before. Well, they can kind of scope it out first. They can see what's happening before they commit. And usually by that point, I'm already kind of harassing them to come over and try. But
I wouldn't call it harassing, Adrienne.
there are some students that would.
Well, you know what? That's your job. So you get paid to harass people. All right. Well, Ian, to be determined on the date. We will follow up with this 100%. I and a mystery partner will gladly take you and Mr. Christiana on to show you who the true Central Penn Cornhole champions are.
Any day of the week.
Well, trust me, we will follow up on this. Don't you worry about that.
Okay.
All right, so the next segment that I want to talk about here is something on basically the exact opposite of tone as the cornhole tournament. Obviously, we have seen over the past few weeks some pretty heinous things develop in our country. And one thing I would say is I was very pleased to be a part of at least a campus that supported the idea of a solidarity rally on campus. It was amazing how quickly it was put together. Romeo Azandakon and, of course, Adrienne and others really helped plan this. And we had a few of our students that actually had the opportunity to speak at the event, and which got a tremendous amount of local news coverage. So, Michael, you were one of the people who had the opportunity to speak at this solidarity rally. I was just curious if you could share with the listeners, what were some of the things that you said? Where did you get the inspiration to say these things? And why was it so important for you to do this?
Yeah, of course. It was a very interesting experience for me personally because it was a spur-of-the-moment thing. I wasn't originally the one that was supposed to have that introductory speech after Mr. Romeo. What had happened was that someone that was supposed to do it, they had a situation, weren't able to make it. And as a member of the Student Multicultural Assembly Board, I was just called to step up and do the job. So it was an honor to do so. And as far as the experience went, having to speak to a whole crowd with cameras all over you, people taking your photo, you're going to be on the television, and it doesn't click until you start speaking. You have to calm yourself down. My foot was shaking. I didn't realize until I went 3 sentences in. I had to slow down, calm myself, and continue on. But the whole experience was very receptive. People were saying, Mike, really proud of what you did. You inspired me. And you could tell it was genuine. Some people just came up because they saw you. They didn't want to say anything. But there are people that said, that was really important. We needed that. Especially since some people felt that the way that they were being treated in the institution, forget about the country, but this institution itself, they didn't feel properly respected. And they said what you said as a student was important. And then, of course, being interviewed by the news and being on the news felt like the school was getting some recognition that they needed. Being on ABC 27 or CBS 21, it was quite the experience.
Well, there's no question about that. Of course, we do get some of the media attention, but this was a huge deal. I mean, this was and not only that, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but as soon as we did it, and I'm not saying that we were the pacemaker here, but as soon as we did it, we started seeing it coming out that a lot of other places were doing it as well. I've actually seen several different things that are scheduled, maybe have already happened or are coming in the next couple of weeks. So I really think that what Romeo did was very on the cutting edge. He was able to put this together in literally about 12 hours, and I do want to have him on again and talk about this. But, Mike, I got to tell you, man, being somebody who is pursuing communications and wants to be in front of the camera potentially, I really think that this is going to be a valuable experience for you in the long run. But tell me what it meant to you. Maybe give me just a brief snippet of what you said, and tell me what it meant to you to be able to say those words with the forum that you had.
Right. So the content of my speech was basically to address the situation, talk about how that impacts me as a student, and then how it also impacts me as a minority and African American, and then touching on how we have to fight this change. We have to fight this problem. White supremacy, neo-Nazis, hate crimes, they shouldn't be around. Why are neo-Nazis in America in the first place? That's a whole nother country, a whole nother time period. So the idea was to just address the crowd about the situation, let them know how we personally felt. And as for how it was for me, as someone who has experienced nothing too serious, but a couple situations where I've been discriminated against, it felt good to get that energy off your shoulders, but in a respectful way, but ultimately to get the point across. Because sometimes people don't understand into your fears. You're up in front of the camera, and you just let it go. You just say it. Because otherwise you try to be nice about it, try to beat around the bush. They don't take you seriously. I was happy that we had the news there to not only document the event, but to reflect the mood, the atmosphere of the rally. That was important.
How much planning did you do? I know that you said it was sort of a last-minute thing, but did you have a chance to plan for this at all?
No.
Wow.
I literally was given the paper. He said, Michael, I need you to do this favor for me. Someone's not here. Take this. Within 10 minutes, I read it. That was it.
That's impressive considering how well you did, and typically when we do present, we do want to be prepared.
Right.
But, there are also times where you're going to be put in a situation like that, and I think that, Michael, not only are we at the Nightly News Media Club very proud of you standing up and speaking about what you believe in about a very important subject here on this campus, but I got to tell you, you really represented the school well in your interviews after the fact, and I couldn't be more proud of you. And you took the opportunity and ran with it, and I can already tell just since then I've seen a little bit different of an attitude in you, which is fantastic.
Thank you.
So,
one last thing, I would like to say.
Absolutely.
One last thing that's important. Let's tie this back to communications for a second. As a communications major, spur of the moment things are going to happen. When you get onto the real world, spur of the moment things, you have to be prepared for them. And even though I was nervous and I said I was sweaty, shaking a little bit until about the halfway point of the speech, I now know what it's going to be like when the real thing happens outside of school, outside of campus. You may not have such a big infrastructure. You may not have Miss Adrienne or Mr. Romeo who can grab a bunch of people and pair something together in 12 hours. Maybe in the future, I'll have to be the leader, pairing something in 12 hours. But getting this rep in, because it's all about reps, getting this in and learning this, I know that next time I'll be able to handle the situation better.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. And again, we really want to thank you for stepping up and doing what you felt was right and doing what you thought was going to be helpful for the situation. And I think that you achieved both of those initiatives.
No
so
problem.
Fantastic work. Thank you so very much. Just a couple of more things, Adrienne, that I want to talk to you about before we get to the featured three. The first one is there's of course, every year at Fall Harvest, we have the Homecoming Court. I know you wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the nomination processes that happen along with that. So would you like to share with us how somebody can go about being nominated for the Fall Harvest Homecoming Court?
Absolutely. I'm excited to see that it's already time for our fall traditions to be returning to us. October 21st is going to be the Fall Harvest Festival, part of our homecoming weekend. And one of the big things that we do there is we announce our homecoming king and queen. Now, before that happens, we solicit nominations. So any student can nominate themselves or someone else that they feel might be deserving for this role. We're looking for students that are leaders on campus or in their community, strong students committed to the college. We'll let you guys be the judge of that and really pick up some great candidates that we can pull from. Then those candidates, they get to campaign. There'll be an open voting period in October. So those candidates are able to campaign and encourage others to vote for them. And the winning male and female will be able to earn the title, which will be presented on the stage at Fall Harvest Festival. Crowns and all the excitement that goes with it.
Have you gentlemen gotten to come to Fall Harvest yet, or was that just a little bit before your time? I'm pretty sure you were here last year, Mike.
I was here just in the first semester, that first summer, and I only took one class, and I wanted to focus on getting into taking multiple classes before I even did any activities. So I wasn't able to be a part of it, but it is something that I am looking forward to.
I'll tell you guys, it's one of the events that everybody here on campus looks forward to every year. And now we're actually developing it sort of into an entire weekend as well. Mm-hmm. So it is certainly partially for alumni, but it's also for our current students as well. So always make sure that you keep that date on your calendar. Make sure you're ready to go, because it's honestly a ton of fun. And really, we don't do anything else quite like that. So.
And one thing that's unique with our Fall Harvest, with our court, we actually will ask them, the nominees that are selected, we will ask them to select a nonprofit organization. And the winning candidates will a donation will be made by the college on behalf of that student to the organization of their choice.
So, Adrienne, let's say somebody has maybe a king and queen in mind and they want to nominate them. How can they go about doing that?
There is a web link. It will be in your Student Central. So in that email that comes to you regularly each week, you'll be able to check the link in there. Stop by my office if you can't find the link. I'll also post it on the Student Activities Facebook page. But it is open now.
Awesome. Well, we have some excellent candidates sitting in this room right now that would make good homecoming kings, if you know what I mean. And hey, that's something you definitely can put. I mean, you may not think, hey, resume, homecoming king, but that's something that you can absolutely put on your resume because it shows student involvement on campus, right?
And quite an honor.
Absolutely, without question. All right, Adrienne, the last thing I want to talk about before we get to the featured three is something that both Ian and yourself are going to be involved with. And it is something called Passions. Now, we heard from Janet Bixler earlier in the podcast today a little bit more about the show, but I'd like to come and ask a couple of questions from your perspective here. Adrienne, I want to start with you. This is something where you are participating in the show. You are one of the, I suppose you would call them actors, although this is... it's difficult because when I think actor, I think that you're playing a part, whereas in some of these cases, it's true stories, right?
I believe they're all scripted pieces. I'm not sure which ones are based in maybe factual events, but in mine, I'm Cleopatra.
Okay. So yes, actress at this point for sure. So tell me maybe a little bit about if you've ever acted before or what your background is in acting and why you decided to do this show.
So I have been just chomping at the bit to get into that theater and on that stage since it was formed, last fall. Beautiful stage. It's been so tempting because I've been down there right next to it in the underground. And finally, the stars aligned and I was able to fit it in my schedule and be a part of this amazing show. Theater was always something I loved doing. I did it when I was in high school and community theater after. And just it's been a little while since I've been able to make that commitment to be involved and be back on stage. But so you will see me. I will be Cleopatra, and I will be with Dylan Epler, who's our Associate Director of Residence Life. So lots of fun, great show, and I can't wait to see the other pieces. I actually haven't had the chance to see the other scripts yet, but great collaboration of students, faculty, staff, community.
Ian, my question to you is, now you've acted before with the players. You're obviously part of the Central Penn players. Mm-hmm. Now you are part of the crew. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of time when I talk to people about being on the crew, they sort of downplay it. They're like, oh, I'm not in the show, but I'm part of the crew. Like, even when I ask you about that, that's what you said earlier. And I want to tell you, like, being behind the scenes we need people behind the scenes. The show would not go on if it wasn't for people behind the scenes. So don't downplay that. That's such an important element of this. So tell me a little bit more about what your part of the Passions performance is going to be.
Okay, so during the show, Passions, I really can't give out a lot of the details, but a lot of what me and my associate Danielle is doing is we basically get the stage ready for the next performers. We have to take our time, but it also has to be in a quick fashion. So normally I'm not backstage. I'm normally in the ticket booth, but just to get this opportunity to help Danielle is really going to be helpful for her because she does it a lot and she can teach me on how I can really get, familiar with it.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is you have to really be on top of your game because there's going to be a certain time frame between each section that the actors and actresses are going to be used to. They're going to, especially by the time you get to the second, third, fourth show, they're going to expect that maybe it's 30 seconds between each, or maybe it's a minute or 2 minutes between each. You have to be just as speedy as everybody else does, and I mean, don't sell yourself short, man. That's a very important role in the production.
We also got these blocks that are good for anything, like we can sit down, stand on them. So it's gonna be easy, so that we can move them, so that we can get in the right spots for the next performance. So I'm looking forward to help with that.
We're glad we have you.
Of course, absolutely. All right, Adrienne, it's time for everyone's favorite segment on the Nightly News podcast, Adrienne's Featured 3. I would say for the month of September, but we are also including some of the Featured 3 events from September. But I do want to make a quick point that we are also going to throw in this week as well. Which, Adrienne, what is event number 1?
So this Thursday, we are bringing in, it's a production by Dialogues on Diversity. It's called The Movement, 50 Years of Love and Struggle. It is going to be incredible. It's a one-man act, and it goes through basically the last 50 years of the civil rights movements and basically the African-American experience. It is going to be amazing. It's going to be funny and humorous and poignant and just all of those things wrapped into one. It is free to get in. Come, it's open to the public, so bring friends. It's going to be a great, great show.
So this is The Movement, Thursday, August 31st. That's at 7 p.m. in the Capitol Blue Cross Theater. Adrienne, what's event number 2?
So 1 week later, on September 7th, we are doing the second annual Bras Across Campus. This is an event that benefits the Feel Your Boobies Foundation, and we are going to, basically just picture this string of bras that we've collected, and we are going to hang them across our big yellow bridge, Hensey's Bridge, and have them on the display there. The point of it is not only to support the mission of the Feel Your Boobies Foundation, but also to encourage our young women to do early self-checks, know what their normal is. The founder, Lee Hurst, the founder of the organization, she was diagnosed very young with breast cancer, younger than you would typically expect to even think you have to worry about it. And she's connected with so many other young girls that have been affected. And their mission is really to educate and encourage self-checks and get that message out there to college campuses.
Fantastic. We also had Kristen Fike from Colleges Against Cancer Club. She came in and she was talking about that as well. So I know that the Colleges Against Cancer Club will be out in full force for that one as well. All right, Adrienne, what is the third and final Adrienne's Featured 3 event for the month of September?
Oh, for number 3 is a collaboration between our Activities Advisory Board and our Student Government Association. They are teaming up to bring Salish, the hypnotist. Now, this is going to be incredible. We've been watching him at some of the conferences we get to go to see the other performers, and we thought there's no way we could ever get him here, but it worked out. We were able to really have this incredible opportunity thanks to some of the connections that we have. And he's going to hypnotize everybody right there in the Capitol Blue Cross Theater.
Gentlemen, have you ever seen a hypnotist before?
Well, when Adrienne told me about this Salish coming, I actually looked him up on YouTube, and it's really like deep in what he does, and I'm excited for it. But I don't think I'm going to be a part of it because I'm afraid that something's going to come out that I don't want nobody to know.
So I got to tell you, we did something like this in high school. Now, it wasn't with Salish, but it was the same type of thing. Mm-hmm. And one of my friends, very close friends at the time, was one of the people who went up on stage. And he didn't believe that he could be hypnotized, and he was going up there to show us how macho he was, that no one was going to be able to hypnotize him. Guess who the first person was to get hypnotized?
Him.
Was him. And he told me that he basically didn't remember anything that happened, and when he came to, he didn't even realize that he was hypnotized. Because he came back and he's like, see, I didn't get hypnotized. And I'm like, yeah, you did. And for like basically ask anybody else the last 20 minutes, you were acting like an idiot, right? Mm-hmm. So, but I'll tell you, I'm not one that I'm sort of skeptical of this too, but I've seen it with my own two eyes. It actually happened. Now, I do know, this is one thing I do know. Some people have a higher tendency of becoming hypnotized than others, mm-hmm. but why not give it a shot, Ian? What do you got to lose? They're not going to make you do anything crazy.
I'm thinking about it. It's up in the air. I might actually do it. I might not. It's still 2 weeks away. I might actually do it. I don't know.
Well,
see who those brave souls are.
He's going. And then when I go with him, I'm going to watch them make a fool out of him. It'll be hilarious.
All right, just a quick recap. Adrienne's Featured 3 for the month of September. We're going to start off August 31st for The Movement, 50 Years of Love and Struggle. It's a one-man show. It's free to the public and to students, faculty, and staff. It's going to be at the Capitol Blue Cross Theater at 7 p.m. The second is going to be Bras Across Campus, taking place Thursday, September 7th, on the quad across the Hensey's Bridge at 4 o'clock to support the Feel Your Boobies campaign, not only to support them, but to also support awareness. And finally, the third event is Salish the Hypnotist on Wednesday, September the 13th, and that's going to be in the Capitol Blue Cross Theater at 7 p.m. as well.
And I'm going to add one little tiny sidebar. I know it's technically not part of my feature 3, but the Cram Jam's coming up. Activities Advisory Board is working on it. I don't have specifics yet because the masterminds are still at work figuring out what we're going to be doing. But that is going to be, as always, the Sunday before finals week. So it will be September 17th, overnight.
September 17th into the 18th from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. Cram Jam. All right, so we have all kinds of things going on, Ian. We've got the cornhole tournament. You're involved in Passions. You're going to get hypnotized. I mean, you've just got a full month of September. And Mike, I just want to come back to you here for a second. I really want to thank you for what you did at the Solidarity Rally, because it really meant a lot to a lot of people what you said. Not only what you said here meant a lot to the students, but when it was sort of broadcast on television, you don't have any idea how many lives you might have affected, by saying what you said.
Right.
And maybe you changed somebody's mind. Maybe you made people understand that, hey, this is not an acceptable way to act. And you never quite know what impact you have until maybe a little bit further down the road. So we really want to thank you from the Nightly News.
Right. The one thing that I said when I was being interviewed by, I believe it was CBS, when they pulled me aside right after it finished, I said the number one thing I want people to walk away with is at least have a new perspective, a different way to look at it. Because I don't expect anyone, being perfectly honest with how I feel, to be changed their whole opinion that they've been rooted in, grown up in, by that one speech. But at least if you can't have empathy, try to at least sympathize. And if you can't sympathize, try to get over from that side and look from this side. And that's all I ask.
And I think you achieved your goal. So thank you. And thank you both gentlemen for joining us today. And of course, Adrienne, I can't thank you enough for coming down here every month with us with your busy schedule to take time out to sit with the Nightly News. It's just, we can't thank you enough.
I'm glad to be here. I wouldn't miss it.
Not a problem. All right, so for Ian Kemmerer, the busy Ian Kemmerer, to Mike Ademola, and thank you again for what you said, and for Adrienne Thoman, Student Activities Director here at Central Penn College. Thank you all very much for joining us today. This is Professor Paul Miller for the Nightly News Podcast.